Happy New Year, Western Hills. We are excited to be joining you online this morning as we ring in 2023. And so we hope you'll enjoy this short message from Grant. And we look forward to seeing you back in person here at our regular times next week, 9 a.m. and 10:30 a.m. And in the meantime, if you have any questions about what's going on or want to know a little bit more about what God's doing at Western Hills, you can check out our website at www.whillschurch.org. Happy New Year.
Dry bones rattling. Well, Happy New Year, Western Hills. Listen, I gotta be honest with you. I'm still kind of in shock that my daughter is married. Like, when does that wear off? I'd really like to know. Because the new year is starting and she's not in the house. She's got her own, like, she's not here. She's not there at coffee in the morning. So it's just kind of crazy to think this. And man, I'm still kind of in shock about this. And if I'm really, really honest with you, kind of the whole week before the wedding, I just had all these images of Camber flooding through. And I remember on the wedding day, I got to have a moment with her. It was a daddy-daughter moment before the craziness began. And they kind of had me up at the front, and they brought Camber in, and I got to turn around, and I got to see her. And oh my gosh, the most beautiful human being on the planet, right? I mean, she's just absolutely gorgeous. And in that moment, I just had all of these images flood through my head. How many days did we get her out of school and me and her go skiing? And I remember at the time thinking, maybe this is too many. And now I look back and I went, man, it wasn't enough. We needed to do more, right? And hikes in Garden of the Gods and kayak trips and card games and eating in hole-in-the-wall places and Saturday morning pancakes. I just had, whenever it snowed, we would go out. I got pictures of us in snow all the time. And then this look right here, this is probably my favorite look. She's probably around 7 or 8 years old. And we had just gotten a ton of snow in Colorado. And she's on the back porch, and I'm taking pictures. And she's got this look on her face like, come on, Dad. Like, hurry up, take the pictures. We got an adventure in front of us. And also all of these images hit me in this moment as I'm looking at this beautiful, smart, funny, fierce, godly woman that she's about to get married. And so there's a part of me in this moment that I want to start singing. I want to start singing the John Mayer song, like, stop this train, like, stop. I don't want this to go any further. And I had images of her, like, dragging me down the aisle, like, no, Dad, come on, we have to go. But then there's another part of me that is like, we've been praying and hoping and raising our kids for this moment, for when they're an adult and then a new adventure begins, right? So there's that part of me too, of there's this beautiful new chapter awaiting us, and I can't wait to get on that story either, right? So I've got this whole tension in me of, I know that there's all these beautiful images in the past, but then I also know there's all this beautiful story in front of me as well. And it's interesting that I think this kind of same place, I think we're in a similar place right here at Western Hills during this season of ministry. In fact, when I think about what's coming in front of us and some of the plans that we've made and some of the things that we're looking forward to in 2023, a verse comes to mind. It's Isaiah chapter 43, verse 19. And it says this, "Look, I'm about to do something new. Even now it is coming. Do you not see it? Indeed, I will make a way in the wilderness, rivers in the desert." And if you don't know much about this verse, let me just kind of tell you the quick story behind it, and it'll be really meaningful to you. Isaiah's talking to Jerusalem and Judah in particular. They've got an enemy army coming down, and they're about to invade and take over, and they're going to destroy the temple. And everyone really believed that God's presence was tied to this location, and that when the location was defeated, God was defeated. And they really believed that could God work? Could God move? Can we be God's chosen people if the temple is destroyed? And they just had this massive amount, like that's the only way they knew God could work. And God sends Isaiah to them and other prophets to say, look, I'm about to do something new. And it includes leaving the past. Like, it includes this thing that you thought was how I was going to work, that's going to go away. Then he'll include other prophecies about how this river in the wilderness, this way in the wilderness is going to be the anointed one, and he's going to be a suffering servant, and he's going to be born of a virgin, and he's going to, it sounds an awful lot like Jesus because it is, right? He's telling them that there's going to be a new way. Watch this. This is a promise of Jesus. And of course, we know the story. Like, Jesus comes, he incarnates God's presence, he dies, he resurrects, and then he says, I'm going to leave you my spirit, so that this presence of Jesus, this new thing that God's going to do, now resides in your heart. And now this new thing is going to be continually be new inside you, right? And so I think that's where we're at as a church. I think that's where we need to be, especially in light of what's going on in the world around us. You see, I'm convinced that probably most people's experience of Christianity, most people and how they following Jesus, falls well below what Jesus desires for it to be. I'm pretty convinced of this. And then I think a lot of Christians have gotten sucked into Christian activities and having a lot of movement in their life around Christian things. But if truth be told, they're just kind of plateaued. They're just kind of like, nah. And Jesus says, no, you can have life and you can have it abundantly. And we hear those verses, but then we compare it to how we're living and we go, man, something's not adding up. And so I really think it centers around what it means to follow Jesus. And so in 2023, this is our focus. We are going to learn, what does it mean to follow Jesus? To let Jesus and his spirit have the last word in every component of our life. What does it mean to grow beyond our preferences and grow beyond what we grew up with in terms of what it means to follow Christ, to the point to where now we're on mission with Christ, and now we see ourselves as a vital piece of God's story in the redemption and reconciliation of others? What does that look like? What would it look like to tackle every day knowing that somewhere along this day, somewhere along the line, God's got a holy appointment for me, and I'm going to get to see him work today? And I think all of that centers around this phrase of following Jesus. Now, yes, some of the DNA that makes Western Hills is still going to be here. We love to serve our community. Like, we love being the hands and feet of Jesus. That's not going to change, right? That's a key component of what it means to follow Jesus. And we're still going to celebrate when people give their lives to Christ. This past year, we saw 16 people give their hearts to Jesus. 16 decided to turn over the leadership of their life to Jesus. How awesome would it be to celebrate twice that many this coming year, right? Wouldn't that be great? I would love to do that, but I don't think the way we see twice as many come to Christ this year is by doing more church stuff, by doing more programs. I think the way we're going to see twice as many is if we as individuals, as the church, learn what it means to follow Jesus. Right? It sounds so simple. It almost sounds like well, isn't that what we've been trying to do all this time, is follow Jesus? And I'd say, yeah, I think so. But I think there's a new thing that God wants us to do in our, quote, wilderness. And I think there's some things we can learn, particularly by studying those scriptures and studying how the first church tried to figure out what it meant to follow Jesus. And that's what we're going to do together in 2023. So I'm going to ask a couple of things of you here as we start the new year. I really want you to make it a priority to come worship with us in the month of January. I'm going to be laying out this idea of what does it mean to follow Jesus, kind of a crisper, clearer vision of what it means to live out the reality of Jesus, and what those practical things and some of the things that we're going to do differently in 2023 at Western Hills Church. And I really would love for you to be in the room when we explore that in January, over the next 3 or 4 weeks. And so I'm going to ask you, man, would you join us? Would you make it a commitment? Would you make it a priority to be a part of worshiping with us in January? And here's the second thing I'm going to ask you to do. Would you take a risk? Now, I don't know what this risk is going to be, okay? But I do know this, that when you follow Jesus, there's going to come a point in time where he asks us to do something, and our first response is going to be, oh, no. No. I can't do that. And I'm going to ask you that whatever that is, don't, after you have that initial reaction, no. You lean into it and you go, okay, yes, right? Give Jesus a yes in January. Now, what could that be? I don't know. You're going to hear about an opportunity to be involved in a Connect group. And if you've never, ever been in a Connect group, your first reaction may be, no, I'm too busy this. Well, maybe that's your yes. Maybe that's the yes where you go, okay, yes. We're going to do Rooted again. Rooted is a discipleship, 10-week discipleship study that anchors your faith to these things we call spiritual practices, these rhythms. And these are some of the things that we use to help us follow Jesus. And maybe you've never gone through Rooted, or maybe you've heard about Rooted and you're like, man, that sounds really intimidating. No. Well, maybe that's your yes, right? You're going to hear about Upward Basketball. You're going to hear about opportunities to visit and to interact with folks that are far from Christ. And maybe you've always said, oh, I just don't know that. I just don't do that. And that's your initial reaction is no. Well, maybe that's your yes. Or maybe it's partnering with a new ministry, Lifeline, or one of our schools, right? Maybe it's financial. Maybe it's giving. Maybe all your life you've never trusted God with your finances, and you're going to be challenged with an opportunity to trust God with your finances. And so maybe that's your yes. I don't know. I don't know what your yes will be, but my challenge to you is not just to show up on January and hear us go through this series, but also to really engage with the Spirit. And when Jesus tells you to follow something, fight that urge to say no and say yes. Let me go back to Canberra real quick. I remember when the idea came up that this strange young man was going to want to marry my daughter, right? And you know, as dad, that initial reaction, you're like, oh no, right? You have this image of your 7-year-old daughter in a ballet outfit, failing to realize, no, she's 23 years old. She's a grown woman, right? And so, again, when I first started hearing and wrestling with the idea of my little baby girl getting married, that initial reaction was no, right? No. But then you wait, you pause, you get to know the guy, you interact, you start building this relationship, and all of a sudden that no becomes a yes. And when the no becomes a yes, the yes opens the door to the greater adventure. The yes opens the door to a deeper relationship. The yes paves the way for us to radically be in a new story. And that's not just about the boyfriend who becomes a fiance, who becomes a husband. That's also about our relationship with Jesus Christ. I'm convinced in 2023, Jesus is going to knock on our hearts. And he is going to say, hey, what does it mean to follow me? What does it mean to give me the last word? And he's going to put something in your lap, and you are going to have to say either yes or no. To follow Jesus means to say yes, right? And we're going to explore that, and we're going to walk through that together in 2023. And when you start to say yes to Jesus, miracles start happening. And that's the potential of what's in front of us in 2023. I'm really excited about the new year. God bless you guys, and I'll see you next Sunday.